Let's just jump right into today's explainers, shall we? Today, we are unpacking an absolutely chilling urban legend straight from the bustling streets of Mumbai. We're going to be looking at the timeline, the truly bizarre encounters, and most importantly, the actual historical reality that anchors this whole terrifying tale. So, the big question right up front, why does one luxury flat in Mumbai remain completely empty to this very day? Now, in a sprawling metropolis like Mumbai, where real estate is basically gold and space is at an absolute premium, the idea of a luxury apartment just sitting vacant, abandoned, unwanted, nobody touching it, is a massive anomaly, right? It honestly defies all logic. But as you're going to see, the reason no one will step foot in this place goes way beyond some simple real estate issue. It involves a night of sheer terror, and we're going to piece together exactly what happened. Okay, let's dive into this. Chapter 1, a rainy Mumbai night. To really wrap our heads around this, we gotta set the scene. The monsoon season in Mumbai, it's not just rain, okay? It literally transforms the entire landscape. It's loud, it's incredibly isolating, and it just completely alters the rhythm of the city. And this is the exact environment our subject, a woman named Mrs. Gupta, found herself in. So here is the setup for you. Mrs. Gupta is totally alone with her 2 young kids. Her husband's away on a work trip, which, she's somewhat used to. But the critical variable here is that they are right in the middle of moving into a brand new flat. And anyone who has moved recently knows exactly how disorienting that is. You don't know the sounds of the building yet. You don't know your neighbors. You definitely don't feel fully secure. Now, compound all that vulnerability with managing 2 kids entirely by yourself during a massive storm. The isolation here is it's almost palpable. Now, let's slow things down for just a second. I want you to picture this. It's July 26th, 1 a.m. Outside, that heavy Mumbai rain is absolutely pouring down, creating this massive wall of white noise. Inside, the new flat is actually mostly quiet. Mrs. Gupta has finally managed to get her 2 young kids to sleep. She's sitting out in the hall, just watching some TV, trying to decompress after a long, exhausting day of unpacking boxes. Everything seems perfectly normal. The uninvited guest. So she's sitting there in the quiet hum of the living room, and suddenly, Mrs. Gupta realizes she is no longer alone in the apartment. Hearing a noise, she naturally assumes one of her kids has gotten out of bed, right? She calls out, "Shubham, you're not asleep yet?" She completely thinks her young son is just awake, maybe getting into some late-night mischief. But guys, this exact moment is where her reality completely fractures. Because when she turns to look, the person standing in the shadows of her new home is absolutely not her little boy. She totally expected to see her young son, but the reality, standing right there in her hallway, is an 18 or 19-year-old strange man. But what makes this so incredibly unsettling isn't just that he's there, it's his behavior. This fully grown teenager isn't acting like an intruder or a thief or anything like that. He's behaving with the erratic, uncoordinated, bizarre movements of a literal small toddler. He's making these strange gestures, acting almost playfully, completely detached from the reality of, breaking into someone's home in the middle of the night. And then things just escalate so rapidly. Spotted. The second Mrs. Gupta takes a single step toward him, this grown man acting like a toddler turns and just bolts. Followed. She chases him straight into the children's room, driven by pure maternal panic. She rushes in, searching frantically. At first, he's nowhere to be seen. But then she opens the children's cupboard and bam, there he is. This strange, unsettling teenager is physically hiding inside her children's closet. No way, right? The situation instantly transforms into absolute claustrophobia. She slams the cupboard shut, desperately pulls out her phone to call her husband, but she quickly realizes the heavy storm has completely knocked out the cell network. Her phone is just dead. There is literally no outside help coming. And then, trapped in the dead of night with no way out, she suddenly hears this violent, loud knocking coming from the locked front door of the apartment. Okay, take a breath because the situation is about to escalate in a way that truly defies all logical explanation. Gathering every single ounce of courage she has left, Mrs. Gupta goes to the front door. She opens it. And standing there in the hallway, it isn't a security guard. It isn't a friendly neighbor. It is an old, strange woman. But the detail that makes this deeply terrifying is that this old woman is holding a massive shovel. And without saying a single word, the old woman just pushes right past Mrs. Gupta and charges straight toward the children's room where that bizarre boy is still hiding. Driven by pure, absolute desperation, she screams, "Stop! Who are you? What do you want?" She has zero idea what is happening right now, but she knows her young, sleeping children are in that room. So, with incredible bravery, honestly, she chases the shovel-wielding old woman down the hall to protect her kids. But the exact moment the old woman crosses the threshold into the children's room, the heavy wooden door swings back and slams shut with extreme force. The loud crack just echoes through the entire apartment. Mrs. Gupta is now physically separated from her kids, with these two horrifying intruders locked inside with them. She throws her entire weight against the door and finally forces it open. Inside, her children are still asleep in their beds, completely untouched. Thank goodness, right? But out on the balcony, standing right on the edge of the railing, teetering over this massive drop, are the old woman and the strange boy. And then, the old woman turns her head, makes direct eye contact with Mrs. Gupta, grabs the boy, and literally plunges backward off the balcony into the dark, rainy night. Her mind is just utterly broken by what she just witnessed, and pure instinct completely takes over. She grabs both of her sleeping children right out of their beds, snatches her car keys from the counter, abandons the new apartment entirely, and drives straight to a family friend's house in the middle of the storm. Miraculously, she survives the night. Now, what's really interesting about this next part is the dark truth of 2005. You see, every good urban legend usually has some kind of anchor in reality, right? Like a kernel of truth that grounds the whole ghost story. Well, when Mrs. Gupta and her husband actually started asking questions about the building's history, they uncovered something deeply unsettling. This dark truth centers around the year 2005. Specifically, it goes back to when this very luxury high-rise was still just an active construction site. And for anyone familiar with Mumbai's history, the year 2005, and specifically the month of July, holds a very tragic place in the city's memory because of those catastrophic floods. But then comes the detail that will literally freeze your blood. The number 25. During the building's construction, specifically on July 26, 2005, which if you remember, is the exact date Mrs. Gupta moved in years later, a terrible tragedy occurred on the 25th floor. A mother who was working at the site and her mentally ill teenage son tragically fell from the 25th floor to their deaths. I mean, just think about how perfectly these paranormal anomalies mirror reality. It's uncanny. The boy acting like a toddler, a direct reflection of the real-life mentally ill teenager. The date of the haunting, July 26th, the exact anniversary of the 2005 flood tragedy. And that terrifying climax where the intruders jump off the balcony, literally a direct replay of the fatal fall from the 25th floor. The past was quite literally replaying itself right there in Mrs. Gupta's living room. Which really brings us right back to where we started today. Outside, you have the vibrant, incredibly busy, wildly crowded city of Mumbai. But inside that specific high-rise, there is for sure a lingering curse. Because of what Mrs. Gupta experienced and the verified historical tragedy attached to it, the story spread like wildfire. And today, that luxurious 25th floor apartment remains permanently locked and abandoned. Nobody wants to live in a space where the boundaries between a tragic past and the present are so terrifyingly thin. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this one thought. If you were trapped in a stormy city with the cell network completely dead, who would you find hiding in your cupboard? Gives you chills, doesn't it? I highly recommend sharing this explainer with a friend who loves a good mystery. Just maybe, don't send it to them if they're home alone tonight. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me to explore this incredibly fascinating slice of Mumbai folklore, and keep seeking out the stories hidden in the world around you. Catch you next time.